How can I have hope in times of despair? Let's go to 1 Samuel 30 and see what the word says. David and his men reached Ziklag on the third day. Now the Amalekites had raided the Negev and Ziklag. They had attacked Ziklag and burned it, and had taken captive the woman and everyone else in it, both young and old. They killed none of them, but carried them off as they went on their way. When David and his men reached Ziklag, they found it destroyed by fire, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. So David and his men wept aloud until they had no strength left to weep. David's 2 wives had been captured, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. David was greatly distressed because the men were talking of stoning him. Each one was bitter in spirit because of his sons and daughters. But David found strength in the Lord his God. Then David said to Abiathar the priest, the son of Ahimelech, "Bring me the ephod." Abiathar brought it to him, and David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I pursue this raiding party? Will I overtake them?" "Pursue them," he answered. "You will certainly overtake them and succeed in the rescue." Here are 3 things you can do when you are faced with times of distress. Number 1. Avoid being discouraged. Encourage yourself in the Lord. Life happens. Bad things happen to you. It doesn't mean that you'd always remain in the pit of despair. Over here, David and his army were in a time of absolute despair. They lost their city, the women and children were kidnapped, it was a total loss. But David refused to let despair overtake him. He encouraged himself in the Lord, and that made all the difference. God is our defense and our supply. When we face a hard situation, He should be our first port of call. We often go to other people first, forgetting that our best ally is right there, ready and waiting to help us. Remind yourself in times like these that God is with you. Pray to God for His intervention. By doing so, you learn not to be dependent on man, but rather fully dependent on God. Times of despair set the stage for God to move mightily over your situation if you are open for God to move. Keep your mind focused on the Word and let it encourage you. An optimistic mindset in times of despair can make all the difference. Number 2. Pray and ask God for direction. This is a no-brainer. Whenever you hit trouble, after you have encouraged yourself in the Lord, the first thing you must do is pray and ask God for guidance. There is no point in just encouraging yourself and doing nothing. Crisis demands action, and making no decision is a decision. With all the emotions, stress, and panic that comes during times of crisis, it can be hard to think straight and know what to do. That is why encouraging yourself in the Lord helps to put everything in perspective. Once this is done, you pray. What do you pray for? Pray and ask God to help you make the right decisions. Ask Him for wisdom and discernment to know exactly what you need to do. God will answer your prayers, be it with Him directly speaking to you or Him opening a door for you to walk through to help handle the crisis. Consult your ever-present helper. He is there to help you in all stages and phases of life. Number 3. Do what you can do and leave the rest to God. God's answer to David in this passage was very simple. Pursue them and you shall surely overtake them. God did not tell him anything else. Sometimes you can receive an instruction that may seem bland, but if God has told you to do it, do it. Do whatever you can do and leave the rest in God's hands. You might be facing an immense crisis on your plate right now, but rest assured that because you are in Christ, it will work for your good. You can feel overwhelmed by the enormity of the task that is placed on your shoulders, but remember that you have a helper who can help you bridge the gap. Whatever you can do, do it. Whatever is too big for you to handle or control, leave it to God. David operated under this, and he ended up recovering all that the Amalekites had stolen from him. David did what he could do, and God added His weight to make up the gap. Likewise, in your situation, do what you can do and leave the rest to God. Times of despair don't last forever. With God, it will all work for your good.